Okay. Amar of Shmuel bar Nachmani. Of Shmuel, the son of Nachmani, says the following. Let me just get it over here. Okay. Amar Rabbi Yonasan. He said in the name of Rabbi Yonasan. Betzalel, we said yesterday, we mentioned Betzalel yesterday. As you know, Betzalel, we are Nun Hey Aman Aleph. Betzalel is the architect of the Mishkan. He was the one who was entrusted to lead, to manage the. It said he was very young, extremely young. Whether he like bar mitzvah or something like that, that area, very, very young, that area, very young. Now again, you know, they were very mature, even I presume in those times. People would say, obviously, if he's capable of doing all that, he has to be a level of maturity that's much higher than a young boy of that age that's today. Just like according to the Midrash about Rivka, how old was Rivka at the time when she gave all the, when Eliezer came, when she, some say she was 3, some say she was maybe 13 or something like that. So now if she was 3, how could she, how was she running and everything that she did and when she spoke and she said she'll defy her parents, but if her parents don't let her go, she'll go with Eliezer. Obviously that 3 is a much different level of 3. So again, there was a number of years between that story and Vitzalel, but still, it would seem that they were much more mature at that time at a younger age. So Vitzalel was blessed with the job of building the Mishkan. And we said yesterday that Hashem said to Moshe, I want you, before you appoint Vitzalel to have such a leadership position, consult with the people to see if the people are happy with that he should get the position. And that's a big lesson for us when you want to, and the Gemara says, when you want to, that's a lesson when you want to appoint a leader on the people, you got to make sure you talk to the people first. Make sure that the people will be, are in on it, are supportive of the person that you want to appoint to lead the.
Boker Tov, Rabbi.
Boker Tov, Yosef. Chodesh Tov.
Wait, is Rosh Chodesh today?
Today is Rosh Chodesh.
Whoa, I didn't know that. So I have to add Musaf and Hallel.
Okay, you got it.
Thanks,
Okay,
Rabbi.
no problem. You got it. Yosef, you got to tell the people, you got to be on some sort of list that sends you an email about when it's Rosh Chodesh. People, because a lot of people don't know. If you don't send an email, you don't notify people. They don't. They might not realize. Okay. Amar of Shmuel bar Nachmani. Betzalel al Shem Chachmaso Nikra. Betzalel was called. His name Betzalel was something that was a name that was given to him because of his great chachma, great wisdom. He got that name, and really, you could say that even when he was born, you could say his parents gave him that name, and it was like a nevuah. It was like a mini prophecy that the parents had when they give a name to their child. It's like a mini prophecy that will come to fruition. There's something in the person's name that speaks about the essence of what the person's job or what he needs to accomplish in their life. And Betzalel gets the name Betzalel, and the name fits him because we'll see how it connects to him, to his life. And that's why Re'ei Karasi B'Shem. It means the idea is that it says that I called in his name. That means when you give a name to the child, Hashem calls out in a certain sense, like Hashem gave you that inspiration to use that should be the name that you're going to give to that child. So we see Betzalel al Shem Chachmato Nikra. He was called this name because of his great wisdom. So the Gemara says, B'shah she'amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu Moshe. God said to Moshe, Lech emor lo leBetzalel asi li mishkan aron v'kelim. When Hashem says to Moshe, go tell Betzalel, I want you to make for me a mishkan, an aron, and kelim. So the mishkan is referring to the tent, curtains that house the Mishkan, and then you have the utensils. You have the building, the outer surface, so to speak, the curtains. That you have the walls, and you have the krashim, the boards, and you have the curtains, the skins that were on top that served as a tent. So Hashem told him, make the Mishkan, and also make the utensils that go in the Mishkan, the Aron, the Kelim, right? Hashem says, he said, Mishkan, Aron, the Kelim. Now, the Kelim is like the Shulchan, the Menorah. Halach Moshe v'hafach. Moshe went ahead and he switched the order. What was when he told Bezalel? He says, I say Aron the Kelim. I said to Bezalel, Hafach Amalo, I say Aron the Kelim of Mishkan. He turned around the order. Instead of saying making the Mishkan, which is the tent, and then the utensils, he says to him, make the utensils, and then he mentioned the order that Moshe gave to Bezalel was utensils, and then the Mishkan, and then the so Moshe changed around. So Rashi says there are different psukim. Yes. Right. So because that Rashi is here to explain the Gemara. So really, it's always good to look at the Rashi. If you're not sure, if you have a question, you look at the Rashi. But even when you don't have a question, Rashi is giving you whatever information Rashi is giving you. It's very important for you to have that information. Sometimes you might know it, you might figure it out on your own, but sometimes you don't figure it out on your own. So Rashi is like basic on. We need to have Rashi to understand really what the Gemara is saying. Rashi is like the real translation, right? And he gives clarification. Translation, he explains the Gemara, he clarifies the Gemara for you. And many times he's answering questions by making his statement. So Rashi says there's different parshiot in the Torah where it discusses the Mishkan. When it comes to, it says v'yikhali truma, when it talks about truma, when it talks about taking truma, taking donations from the people, there the utensils were mentioned first. The aron, the kelim, and then the curtains, then the stuff that are going to be used as the tent. So that's how Moshe told Bezalel. Now Hashem also told Moshe also gave instructions about, and Hashem mentions the Mishkan first, and Hashem then mentions the Aron. So we have two different places. That one place, when it refers to taking the donations, it says take the donations for the utensils first. It mentions utensils, the order of the utensils, and then it mentions the tent, the building, the tent that will house utensils. And there's another place where it mentions about the house, the building, and then the utensils. So Moshe told Bezalel the way he was instructed, the way he was told by the Truma. When he was told by the Truma, I want you to go ahead and take money for the utensils, and the people should donate for the utensils and then the tent. So that was the order that Moshe told Bezalel when it was coming to building the Mishkan. So that's what Moshe told Bezalel, that order. And then what happened? Amalo Moshe. So Bezalel said to Moshe Rabbeinu, Minhagul Shalolam, what is the normal way of the world? Adam bona bayit. First, a person builds a house. And after you build the house, what do? First you build the house, and then you go ahead and you bring in utensils. But if you're going to go ahead and you're going to have utensils without a house, where are you going to store? What are you going to do with utensils if you have no house? First, you build the house, and then you'll have a place that when you build the utensils, you have a place to put the utensils. But if you're going to go in and build furniture, and you have no place to store the furniture, you have no place to put into. So therefore, he says, says Adam bone bayis v'achar machmas tocha kelim. But ata omer, but you say asili aron. You say make an aron the kelim. You mentioned to me about making the aron and the kelim, and then the mishkan, and then to make the mishkan. That's the order that you told me. So kelim shani oseh, the utensils that I will build, lehechan achnisem. Where shall I put those utensils? You're telling me, I want you to build utensils, build the aron, build the menorah, build the shulchan. And where are you going to put it? You didn't tell me where. There's no house to put it into, because it would make more sense, he says, it would seem to make more sense first to build the tent, have a building, have a place to store them. You build something, if you don't have a place to store it, it could get ruined. It's not under shelter. It's not being protected, right? So what happened was, Amalo, so Moshe says, Shema b'tzel kel hayita v'yadata. Maybe you were in the shade of the shadow of Hashem, and you know that that's what Hashem said. Meaning to say, you're right. It is true. Hashem also told me that. Hashem told me both. He mentioned about the truma, when it takes taking to the nations, he mentioned about taking of the utensils first. And Hashem also mentioned about building the Mishkan. He mentioned the opposite. He also mentioned build the house and then the utensils. And it would seem from that Moshe understood. Moshe felt that the right way to go was to first build the aron and then the utensils and then the building. But now that Tzalel mentioned to him this fact, this idea, he says, Hashem also told me this. I mean, Hashem told Moshe both. Hashem told Moshe the idea of building the house, and then there were different things that Hashem said. And Moshe, it would seem, understood that the first thing that Hashem said, by Truma, build the utensils first. That's what she built. And now you want to know where you're going to house the utensils? We work, things happen. There's always, Hashem could do anything. You don't need to have, not everything works in normal, natural order when it comes to things. And therefore maybe, that's what Hashem said. He mentioned the first thing he told Moshe was first build the utensils. So that's what I'm going to do. I'll follow there was another place later on, Hashem said that mentioned the Mishkan. Hashem told Bezalel to build the Aron first. He told Bezalel to build the Aron first. Look at the Rashi. Now we're going to use that. You can use Ariel's point. Look at the Rashi. It addresses your point, Mr. Of Daniel. Look at Rashi. Lech emolo lebesala asay mishkan aron the kelim. You have the Rashi on the right side. No problem. Because there's always there's a headline of Rashi. Whatever is bolded is the headline. So look at the headline. Look at the bold. You see the black of the bold on the right side. You see Leich Emalo B'Tzalel Asay Mishkan Aron V'Kelim. Leich Emalo B'Tzalel Asay Mishkan Aron V'Kelim. Shekain Hein Sedurim V'Pashish Kisisa. That's how they are. That's the order that's in Pashish Kisisa. Re'ei Karasi B'Shem. I've called the name of Bezalel as Ohamoed, Ves Aharon, the Edus V'chol Parsha. So it says over there, go tell Bezalel. It says now. So it says that's the way the order is in Kisisa. But Moshe Omalo, what did Moshe say to him? Asay Aron v'Kelim. But Moshe said, I want you to go ahead and say and build the Aron and the Kelim could go Shulchan Menorah, to build the Shulchan and the Menorah. Kigon the Svirili Rabbi Yonasan, this Seder Shem Sidurim V'Yikhli Truma Omalo, that he holds that the order that it was said in Pashas Truma, that was the order that Moshe originally said to Bezalel, was the order that it says in Truma. He followed what Hashem said in Truma. Hashem said in Truma, V'Yikhli Truma, I should go ahead and take Truma, and he said, first take the for the Aron, make the for the Aron, right? We have the Chumash. The Chumash. Okay, what does it say in Truma? The Pasha's Truma. We have. So let's look at the psukim. In Pasha's Truma, it says. Hashem says to Moshe, Yichali Truma, Me'it Chalish, it also Truma Shetichum Yitam, Savachesem Nechoshes, and it mentions Asu Aron. Make an Aron at the Shitim. It first says the Aron, and it says, and make the Aron. So what was said first? Make the Aron, and then it says, make the Mishkan. So Moshe Rabbeinu at this point in Pasha's Truma tells him, I want you to go ahead and make the Aron first. So that's and Bezalel says to Moshe asked Moshe at one point, he said, shouldn't we go ahead and make the Mishkan first? Right? So that was and Moshe says, you're right. Because both were said to me. Moshe was told about the Aron in one place first, about making the Aron. Meaning take donations. What's the purpose of the donations? To make an Aron. And also I want you to take the donations and make the Mishkan. So the first thing that was said to Moshe was about making the building the utensils first. Hashem also said to Moshe later on, I want you to the Ohel Moed and the Aron, and Hashem said in a different place the order was the opposite. The tent first, and then the Kalim. So we have two different places, two different orders that were given to Moshe. Moshe told Bezalel the order that he was told in Truma, and really once Bezalel told him that the logic should be more, you should build the Mishkan first. So Moshe Rabbeinu at that point said, "Wow, you're correct," because I did also hear from Hashem this idea of building the Mishkan. But Moshe Rabbeinu understood. He thought that the main thing was the order that he was told the first time about the utensils first. But now that Bezalel brought out his point, so Moshe said, you're right. That's what Hashem was probably. There's a difference between the donations, what you take when you talk about the donations. Take the donations and the actual building. And therefore, that's what he says. Amal, he says, Shema b'tzel kel hayita v'yadata. Maybe you were there. You were able to figure out that point that really the Mishkan was supposed to be built first, and that shows you, and that's what Moshe Rabbeinu. Now, there's a lot of discussion about what happened. Moshe Rabbeinu made a mistake, right? So Moshe Rabbeinu originally thought you're supposed to build the utensils first, and Bezalel was able to bring it out to him that no, you're supposed to build the Mishkan first. So that's a discussion that the commentaries discuss. But this is the greatness of Bezalel. He was able to figure out that what you're supposed to build first is the Mishkan, is the tent first.
You said before, first is they're doing a drawing for collecting money for
Right, right, now it's actual the building, right? There's two things. There's the drive you want to collect for, you're collecting for. So when Hashem spoke about the drive, he spoke first about what's the main purpose of the Mishkan? Is the main purpose of the Mishkan the building, the house, or the main purpose of the Mishkan is the utensils that the battery of the Mishkan is not so much the covering of the Mishkan. That's just the shell, that's just the box, so to speak. Like the main thing of a house is what's contained inside the house. Like the mezuzah, like the tefillin. You have the batim, it's called the batim, where you contain the tefillin. The batim means the house. It houses the parshiot. The meat and the potatoes of the tefillin is not the box. Of course, it's halacha l'Moshe Sinai, many laws about the box, how it has to be square and whatever the laws are. But the main thing of the tefillin, the box, the tefillin, is that what's inside, contained inside, which is the parshiot, the parshas of the Torah, which is in the tefillin. It's the same thing with the Mishkan. What is the main thing of the Mishkan? Is the main thing of the Mishkan the curtains that are hovering over the Mishkan, or is the main thing of the Mishkan the Aron, the Menorah, the Shulchan, the Mizbeach? That's the meat and the potatoes. The meat and the potatoes of the Mishkan are all the utensils where you're going to bring korbanot and you're going to light the menorah. That's the meat and the potatoes. So therefore, Moshe Rabbeinu, that's why, because that's the meat and the potatoes. So therefore, that's why Hashem said that first. The Yikuli Truma, when he said, I want you to go ahead and I want you to make an appeal and get money. What's the purpose of the money? When you're making an appeal to the people, you collect money. You're going to talk about collecting money. You're going to collect money for the covering, for the shelf, or you can talk about you're collecting money to build the Aron, to build the menorah, to build the Mizbeach, because that's the essence, that's the real meat and the potatoes of the Mishkan. So therefore, Moshe Rabbeinu originally told it to Bezalel in that fashion, the same way Hashem told him that when it came to the donations, Hashem says, I want you to collect for the Aron. I want you to collect the gold, the silver, and make an Aron from that collection. And that's the purpose of you collecting that money. For what purpose? To collect that money, to make an Aron, to make the. So that was the order that Moshe Rabbeinu told Bezalel. The order was the Aron, making the Aron, but there was another order that was not that way, which was the way of making the curtains, the house first, and then the inside. Amar Rabbi Yehuda Amar Rav. Rabbi Yehuda says in the name of Rav, Yodea haya Bezalel tzaref otiyot shenivru v'hem shemayim v'aretz. Bezalel was able to go ahead and create and take the letters that Hashem used to go ahead and create the heavens and the earth. Hashem joined different letters of the Hebrew alphabet, and to go ahead and create the world. This is very mystical, exactly how Hashem did this, but the same way that Hashem took the letters to create. Obviously, there's an amazing world. How the heavens, the oceans, all that. How was that created? So Hashem used different letters of the Hebrew alphabet and created different combinations of those letters and created the world through that. So he, Bezalel, he knew how to join the letters, the same letters that Hashem used to the combinations of different letters to create the world. He knew also how to go ahead, and that wisdom, he knew how to put the letters together. And he would have the ability, so to speak, to create the heavens and the earth also, if he knows that combination. If you're privy to the combination of what Hashem used to create the heaven and the earth, that means you have some sort of an amazing wisdom, that you have that ability also to create the heavens of the earth. And I presume, what was the idea behind this? Because the heavens and the earth and the Mishkan, the world stands by the Torah, the Mishkan, the Ohel. This is what keeps the world going, right? It's the Al Torah, Avodah, and therefore, and the whole purpose of the world, it says Hayom Hashishi, because of the sixth day, the world was dependent, the Jewish people would keep the Torah and accept the Torah. So there's a direct connection between the world, the existence of this world, and the Torah. If there's no Torah, there's no world, right? I think Rav Chaim Volozhin says to be a second in the world that there's no Torah learning, the world will go to tohu vavohu. It would be, the world would not be in existence, and therefore the same way that the letters that were used to create the physical world were same way that so Bezalel, who's going to create the items that contain that spiritual world, so to speak, the items, the Aron, the Kelim, the things in the base in the Mishkan, he knew also the Shemai. He knew that he had that wisdom also to create the world, because the world, that world, the physical world, the spiritual world go hand in hand, directly interdependent one on the other. Without that, without Torah, there's no world. So therefore, he was privy to the wisdom of creating. So when he created whatever he created, he used his hands, his physical hands, to create the Aron and the Kelim. But he had also the knowledge, the wisdom he was connected to the wisdom of creating the whole world, because he knew he had that knowledge that was there, what was used to create the world. So it's an amazing thing, the wisdom that he had, that he's able to know that what the letters that Hashem used to create the world. Ksiv hachab. It says over here, Vayamali oto ruach elakim. Hashem filled him with a special godly spirit. He had a special bracha b'chachma, b'tfuna, u'b'dat. He had tremendous understanding of wisdom, understanding, and knowledge. That's what it says about Bezalel. He had chachma, tfuna, and das, ksiv hasam, and it says regarding the creation of the world, Hashem b'chachma yosad aretz. Hashem, how was the world created? With chachma. And it says about Bezalel, he had chachma. Ekone shamayim b'tfuna. And the heavens were created, were established with tfuna. Uksiv, and it says also regarding the creation of the world, b'daito, with Hashem's dat, with the das, the homot nivko'u, that the depths, the oceans, and all that were created. So we see from here that when it talks about the creation of the world, it talks about chachma, tuna, and dat. And when it talks about Bezalel, he had all three. Bezalel had all three, and the Gemara is saying it's not because he had that ability, so to speak. He was privy to the knowledge how to create creating the whole world.
Rabbi,
Yes.
first of all, you should mention that Bezalel was only a kid at the time.
Yes, Mr. Haber brought that up, that he was very young at the time. Maybe he was 12, maybe he was 13, but at the end of the day, it's like, Shlomo HaMelech was also 12 when he became king. How old was Shlomo? But Hashem gifted Shlomo at 12 with an amazing abilities. So
it's not a gifted, it's like, what, if you ever seen the movie, The Matrix, it's like he inject him with this knowledge,
Right.
He didn't know the knowledge before. It was just like kind of injecting with all the knowledge, what to do and how to do.
Right. Now, very good. But you're going to see now, look what the Gemara is going to say about Bezalel. Look what it says. Yosef, you'll appreciate the next Gemara, connect to what you said. Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Eina Kadosh Baruch Hu nosei chachma, el mi sheyesh bo chachma. Who does Hashem give chachma to? Who does Hashem give wisdom to? A person who has chachma. If you have chachma, that's who Hashem gives wisdom to. Now the question is, what does that mean? If you have, what do you mean? If you already have the chachma, what do you mean? Hashem gives wisdom to the person who has chachma. But so that means you already have chachma. So how do you have chachma in the beginning, in the first place? If you're telling me Hashem gives wisdom, to a person who already has chachma. So some would say, says Reishis chachma yirat Hashem. That fear of Hashem is called a chachma. Mesilat Yesharim discusses that being a God-fearing Jew, to be able to understand how to knock out the Yetzer Hara, to have Yirat Shamayim, to be smart, to outwit the Yetzer Hara, that takes chachma, that takes wisdom. So a person who has Yirat Shamayim, you're a God-fearing Jew, that's the person that God will gift you, inject in you wisdom. That is how some people interpret the Gemara. Now, my Michal Birabam Zitzal, who worked together with Moshe Feinstein, the Mashgiach and Tresha Shalayim, he would say the following. He would say, the person who gets chachma, the Gemara is going to say, "Believe kol chacham leiv nasati chachma." The Gemara is going to bring a pasuk. Someone who's chacham leiv, Hashem gives chachma. What does that mean? If you appreciate chachma, if it's a point to you chachma, you appreciate Torah, that's the one Hashem will give chachma. Mr. Haber, you hear what he says? That not that you're smart in knowledge to begin with. What's smart about you that you have? What's the prerequisite to get the special chachma, the special wisdom? You have to want it. You have to appreciate it. You have to be a chacham leiv. There's something called you're smart of your heart. You're smart. What does it mean? You're smart in the heart. Because you're smart in the heart that you appreciate it, that you want it. That's what Hashem is going to give. That's the one Hashem is going to give. You want to have, you want to be gifted with this gift of wisdom. You have to be first appreciate it and want it and recognize the greatness of it. And then I'm going to give it to you. So that's what Rabbi Yochanan says. What's the chachma? According to Rabbi Birabel, the chachma is you're smart that you want it. That's the wisdom that you appreciate it. That's the chachma that you have. That's the prerequisite. Shenema, Yahav chachmata l'chakimim. Hashem gives wisdom to the wise. Umanadal liyodi binah, and knowledge to the ones who know understanding. So according to Rabbi Birabel's stat is, what does it mean? It gives wisdom to the wise. You're wise that you want wisdom. That's the wise. And he wants to prove it from the following Gemara. The Gemara says, Shoma Rav Tachlifa Bamarava. Rav Tachlifa came from Eretz Yisrael, morning, from Bamarava, from the west, and he heard what the rabbi just said. V'omra kamei de Rabbi Vahu. And he said it in front of Rabbi Vahu. And he says, Atun mehatam natlisanla. You learn that law, that fact, that Hashem gives chachma only to the wise people. Hashem only gives wisdom to the people that are wise. I learned it from a different pasuk. Anan mehachamafino. We learn it from the following pasuk. What does the pasuk say? And this pasuk, he feels it's better to learn it from this pasuk because we have a pasuk, it's a pasuk in the Chumash. What does it say in the Chumash? Ubelev kol chacham leiv nasati chachma. A person who's smart of heart, that's the man who's going to get the wisdom. What does it mean, smart of heart? Smart of heart means you appreciate wisdom. You recognize it. You value it. You want it. You value it, I'm going to give it. You don't value it, I'm not going to give it. So that's the opinion. That's one shot. If you appreciate wisdom, you want Torah, Hashem will give it to you. The other shot is if you have wanting to have it. Yes. And the other shot is if you have Yirat Shamayim. If you're God-fearing, I'll give you the gift of wisdom. That's the prerequisite. Because God-fearing, we said, is called a wisdom. Reishit Chachma Yirat Hashem. And the Mesilas Yesharim says, many people make the mistake. They think being God-fearing is not a big deal. It's automatic. It's not true. To be a God-fearing person takes work, takes effort, takes wisdom. And it's called the Chachma. That's what we need to recognize. And therefore, he says you have to put a lot of time into becoming a God-fearing person. And it's a wisdom. And like any wisdom, takes effort. It doesn't happen. You have to spend time on it. And that's why he makes his pitch, he makes his appeal people to learn Musar. Because he says you need to spend time to learn Musar in order for you to go ahead and become a true God-fearing Jew. If you don't learn Musar, you don't focus, like anything else in life, you don't put time, you don't put focus, you're not going to get it. You're not going to conquer it.
You touch this stove, you will have a
Amar Rav
mouth.
Chisda. Rav Chisda says, Kol Chalom.
Yeah.
You know what? Anything you dream about, whatever you dream about, is you know, you know, we can work with. But there's one thing you should not, is a bad, really bad sign. If you see in a dream that you're fasting in a dream. He says if you're fasting in a dream, that's a real bad sign. So, and obviously if it's a bad sign, therefore a person should go take it as a message. You got to shape up. And that's what the message is. Because Hashem sends messages through different ways. He sends earthquakes, he sends tornadoes, he sends COVID, he sends a lot of things that he sends messages. And one of the things, he used to have prophets. He would send messages through Nevi'im, through prophets. Today we don't have prophets. So one of the things Hashem says, sometimes it's through a dream. He sometimes sends a message through a dream. And this dream is a real dream with a real message of shape up. What's the message? You see yourself fasting in a dream. I don't think anyone here saw themselves fasting in a dream. But that's his opinion. Don't. That's something you have to be aware of. Now he says, and he says another thing. I want to tell you that as long as you don't interpret the dream, it's like a letter that's unread. The dream doesn't have so much power if it's not interpreted, because the dream goes after the interpretation. You could tell a good people, if you tell the person a dream, you have to tell a person who's going to interpret it positively. Like that's why sometimes if a person has a dream and he's concerned about the dream and it bothers him, he goes in front of three people and they say, and there's certain that you say, and you say, latav. The people interpret it. They say it's going to be good. It's going to be good. It's going to be good. You have to know who you're talking to. So be careful. Don't tell your dream to a person who doesn't know this Gemara, who doesn't know that it all goes after, that the interpretation is the key to the fruition of the dream. You have to make sure you tell it to someone who's going to give you, whatever it is, they're supposed to give you a positive interpretation. If you see something bad happening in a dream, the person's going to say, you know what, maybe that was supposed to happen, and now that you saw the dream, it's never going to happen. You always got to twist the interpretation of the dream, always to the positive. Never give a negative interpretation of a dream. That's bad. That's bad. Okay.
When we can do Hatavat Chalom also.
Right. There's something called Hatavat Chalom. Like Yosef said, Hatavat Chalom. It's called Hatavat Chalom. What does it mean? Hatavat Chalom. It means the good, making the dream good. That's what Hatavat Chalom is all about. Okay. Today, now we're going to go ahead and get ready for davening, Chodesh davening, Chodesh Tov to everybody, and Shabbat Shalom to everybody. We want to thank everybody for joining in, 6:45 every day, but anytime you come, we'll take you. So you hear that, Mr. Vitesh? Every word of Torah is a mitzvah. They clock John F. Kennedy at 200 words a minute. Okay? Okay? Have a great day.
So it's one day Rosh Chodesh, right, Rabbi?
One day Rosh Chodesh. You got it.
Okay. Thank you, Rabbi. Shabbat Shalom.
Also, I would suggest get a good calendar for your wall in your house. A nice calendar, put on the wall, mark every month, mark in advance, a week in advance, mark Rosh Chodesh on the calendar. That's my rabbi's recommendation.
Yeah.
In my house, you know what I do, Yosef? When it's Rosh Chodesh, I write on a paper, Happy Rosh Chodesh. I want people to know it's Rosh Chodesh. So I make a little sign, Happy Rosh Chodesh. On the house, I put it on the table. I write Happy Rosh Chodesh.
Oh.
Have a good day. Have a good day. Right, Morris? Good idea? I write it, I put it on the dining room table, I put it on the kitchen table. That's what I did this morning. People need to remember. Your wife needs to remember. It's Rosh Chodesh. You got it? Chodesh Tov. Have a good day, everybody. Have you heard that? Your wife needs to know it's Rosh Chodesh. You got to write a paper on the table. You say Happy Rosh Chodesh.
In our lobby, I put a sign. You can see it? Yeah. My lobby in the building, there's a huge sign. Happy Rosh Chodesh.
We're going to try to get a sign for the shul here. People walk in on Rosh Chodesh.